Welcome. We're going to allow a couple of seconds to go by to let everyone into the webinar today. My name is Noemi Guevara, and it's my pleasure as the Director of Alumni Engagement, to welcome you to our next edition of our 49er Industry Chat. Before we start our session today, I would like to let you know this session is being recorded and it will live on our website on demand to your viewing pleasure. And now, before we continue, I would like to encourage you to use the Q&A box located below if you have any questions for our speaker. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's chat. Lucia Cos graduated in 1975 from the College of Liberal Arts with a degree in Spanish and was recognized as a distinguished alumna in 2005 and currently serves as a board member in our CSUB Alumni Council. Thank you so much, Lucia, for moderating today, and I turn it over to you.
Great. Glad to be here. Patricia Suazo is a proud Long Beach State alum, and she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in International Business in 2002. She serves as a FundingShield's Vice President of Technology Operations and Integration, and has more than 15 years of leadership experience in the mortgage lending space, specializing in software systems, implementation, migrations, and integration. She has extensive knowledge and experience in digital platforms and automation and is a certified Scrum Product Owner. Patricia also has a passion for cooking, which led her to volunteer for Second Harvest Food Bank and Someone Cares Soup Kitchen in Costa Mesa. Please welcome Patricia Suazo, today's 49er Industry Chat host. Patricia.
Hi, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm very excited to be here with everyone in this virtual environment. Needless to say, I'm very happy that everyone has joined and has maybe some questions in regards to what's going on in today's world with technology. A little bit about myself. This is going to be pretty much a very conversational piece on how I was able to navigate through my career. How was I able to navigate from being a graduate and extending my education and being where where I am today. I started off at Long Beach State, not really knowing what kind of path I wanted to take. At that point in time, I was able to go ahead and have the help of Educational Opportunity Program and Educational Equity Services. And at that point in time, we were able to kind of devise a plan. That's kind of where things kind of started off for me in regards in the business realm. At that point in time, you know, I did the courses, I was very on track, very focused, and I decided that it was right for me to take that step and start looking into the financial industry. That's where literally I stumbled upon the whole technology world. I had a knack for processes and operations and being able to decipher what the actual human interaction is between every step that is being taken in any process that we take currently today. And thankfully, Bank of America was my first employer. And I owe Bank of America so much for giving the fundamentals and the structure to be able to move forward. I have about 15 years of experience. I can honestly say I've done it all from notary public. I've also have my real estate license, and this is all part of the continuing education to be relevant in the technology field, specifically in the niche that I'm in, which is mortgage real estate, fintech. At that point in time, from there on, I was able to grow in my career and also take the steps needed to further my education, whether it's certification, as well as a mother of two, I decided to not go the traditional route for the master's program. Instead, I did the online program, which needless to say, it is a very difficult program in itself and very demanding. So people that look light upon it, it's not really what it is. It's very difficult.
Patricia, was that at the University of Phoenix, the online?
Yes. Mhm.
And you got your MBA from there, right?
Yeah. And then from there, what ended up happening is, as you start applying yourself with your jobs and the career after that, from Bank of America, I did a little bit of compliance through Downey Savings and Loan. From there, then I went on to more of the lending institutions. These lending institutions are multi-billion-dollar companies that literally move the economy day to day, right? And the lending institutions, basically first mortgage, home equity line of credit, hard money lending. These are all kind of, names that people use in regards to how to obtain a loan, right? How to obtain that financial backing to be a first-time home buyer or to refinance your home, right? So I decided that was kind of the niche for me, and I really enjoy it because part of it is having that self-gratification, right? In regards to, we're helping these people, low income, first-time home buyers, have the American dream of purchasing a home. And that's kind of how I got started, really, in regards to where I'm at today. So after that, I've basically had the exposure of wonderful companies throughout the way in fintech. And today I currently hold that position with FundingShield. And I'm very excited to be there. We are at the cutting edge of technology. And that's why I continued my education with artificial intelligence and also the management piece of artificial intelligence. And that's where I'm in today.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your the progression. So you talked about B of A, getting the fundamentals, and then moved on from there to a few, technology companies, right? So
Yes, that's correct.
could you give us a little more detail on what your next step was and how you decided to make that jump from a bank to technology?
Sure, perfect. Coming right out of college, sometimes you're not going to land that technology dream job that you've always wished for in whatever sector you're going to be going into. I have to date myself. This was back in the early 2000s. A lot of the, I would say kind of concentrations weren't necessarily, it's either computer science or it was something along engineering. People went through that route to go into technology. I went through the business route. And so from that particular piece, it was more of, I started off as a operations analyst. And then from there, what an operations analyst does is basically takes your operations and analyzes it, right? It says, okay, here's our current day process, and this is where we want to be. And what steps do we have to take to streamline that process, right? And at the end of the day, that purpose of me doing that is to basically reduce any overhead costs for the company, right? So we wanted to make that interaction. Bless you.
Oh, excuse me.
No worries. And so that's where I started with B of A, and it is technology driven because within B of A at that point in time, as my first, job out of college, I went into the actual reporting piece of it as well. And that's how you get involved. Once you kind of have exposure, you look within the company that you're in to see if there's growth, right? One of the important pieces as a college graduate is being able to assess and say, I will have maybe 100 interviews and I might not land those 100, but it takes that one to be able to basically say, I landed the job, and also make sure that you make that right decision for yourself. Is there growth? Is there the opportunity to learn, right? And that's how I kind of jumped into from the ops piece and the analyst to then the reporting piece, which is a little bit more of a business intelligence, which do they call it, BI. And then from there, I went on to the other steps of, basically business analyst or systems business analyst. And these are like progressive steps as you get your education under your belt and you get your experience under your belt, then you'll be able to progress from a career perspective into those different steps.
So what do you think for our listeners that, how do you believe recent alums and new graduates need to prepare? Maybe the top 3 to 5 things they really do need to prepare to get into your field?
First of all, my field's really interesting. I would say I'm one of more of the outgoing people in my industry, because I have to deal with developers on a daily basis. I actually manage a group offshore currently today, and then I have a team internally within us as well onshore, where we have to have these communications and you have to drive it. So you can say, as the VP of Operations and Technology for FundingShield, I'm basically the cheerleader moving and being the catalyst to move projects and products and innovation forward with the help of, of our executive parties as well. So it just matters on how you take that step, right? And being able to move forward. I would have to say one of the successes is make sure you act the way that you want to be treated. Number one, right? Yeah. Secondly, always listen. Make sure you listen, take notes, and then also ask questions. It's very important to ask those questions, because sometimes things are unsaid, or things end up not being addressed that you could have actually prevented, or actually given a great idea just by asking a question. It doesn't matter that you have to dictate. It's just the matter of being in the moment to be successful. And be respectful of others. And one thing is always being positive. We all make mistakes, in our jobs, in our daily lives. And the good part is that we learn from them, and you may call them mistakes, or you may call them learning opportunities. But it's basically looking at it from a positive standpoint and a can-do attitude. Sometimes you have crazy ideas, and everybody in your team, in your first job, you're like, oh, you can't do that. Well, how about a can-do attitude, which means positivity and also being present. I think those are the key steps that will help you open doors, and you want people to feel receptive to you. So when you have an audience that's not receptive to you, are you really getting your communication across, right? So those are kind of the pieces that I've taken throughout my career to refine how I can be successful in my job and my career today.
That's great. So what I've seen when I've done my research on you, and also what you've said today so far, is that you do balance the technology side with the actual operational side and how to marry those. And I guess that leads to a question about early 2000s to now. We've made such large leaps in technology. It's almost difficult to find a job in just the technology side that will help you progress if you don't have the balance of understanding what the technology is doing for whatever company you're working for. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I would have to say, don't be afraid to apply for something that you set yourself up for, right? Like that is your goal, that is your target. I want to become this. So what steps do I need to take to be that, whether it's a product manager or a strategic initiatives executive, or a lead developer, for example. And I'll give you the concept of a lead developer. Lead developers, usually they have maybe a computer science, degree, or they have, alternate education under their belt, which is just as wonderful as whatever they're planning to do for their career. And they have that work experience. It's a matter of getting into those first steps, being able to expose yourself, to be able to have that, I would say, that experience, right? And then from there, once you grow, there's steps and there's progressions you can take with that. So you do your initial one, which is basically your, they require all this kind of code, and they require all these other items that are part of the job description in your requirements, right? That's usually how it goes. You look at the job posting and it has all this information. Coming out of college, some may have rock star stellar experience already from internally that they're doing on their own, which is fabulous. And if they have some portfolio that they can share, or a website that they can, showcase what they've been able to do themselves, that's a foot in the door right there, definitely. The other piece of it is making sure that if that is your goal, how do you obtain that goal, right? What are the steps you're going to take? So you need to have a plan, right? One of the plans is, like I like to talk to the EOP students from before, was do your vision board. You know, when I came in here and being what I am today with FundingShield as the, you know, the VP of technology and operations, you know, those were like 10 years ago, I was basically a business analyst, project manager, right? I wasn't envisioning a full-on fledged what it is to be there. But what I knew was I needed to take steps to educate myself to get to a place where, you know, executive board and management felt comfortable, you know, being able to trust me to run with the company on these initiatives. So that's basically it. It's just making sure you have a plan, making sure that you read what it is that is required of you. So if it says, you know, you need Python or you need some sort of, you know, code or language, right, that they're requesting, figure out how to get there. Do you need to take a course? Or even if you have to go to an interview and you don't have that under your tool belt, it's still okay, because you can tell them that you're willing to learn. And employers love to hear that you are proactive, willing to learn, willing to take courses to get to that place. And a lot of times you are an investment and they'll take you as precious, right? They want to invest time for you. They want to invest that knowledge to give you that knowledge to be able to move forward.
So Patricia, I've worked for a large company, so I understand that you have to be seen, they have to know who you are. So how do you incorporate, and how did you incorporate networking and looking for mentorship from within?
That's a great question. Coming out of college, it was a little bit difficult for me to understand what that meant and the networking. I actually had the great pleasure of working with a person named by Lilia, and she taught me how to network. So having a boss or someone in the organization to help you, to mentor you, is literally priceless. That gives you the backbone, the fundamentals, the foundation to be able to progress, right, in the networking. One of the things was I'm part of NAREP, right? So it's a National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, and as well as MBA, right? Mortgage Bankers Associations. So there's a lot of associations and things that you can networking that you can start, you know, associating yourself to. I'm not condoning that you guys are going to spend $500 to become a member or anything like that, but, you know, following them through LinkedIn, social media, reading their articles or posts, sometimes, you know, even putting in a comment gives you that exposure. Like I literally, for my post-grad work for that I'm doing currently right now, I put in a small comment on one of their posts, and I got, you know, I would say 20, 30 responses back with basically something having to do with artificial intelligence. So being able to put yourself out there, and also making sure that what you're saying isn't going to have a repercussion back on you, because that will stay on forever. These tools to market, you know, and have this networking effect is really, you know, the tools of today. Before, you know, before COVID, it was going to these conferences face to face. Now all these conferences we have are online, right? Virtual. And it is a different kind of situation, and it's a different dynamics, right? Because when you're networking, you know, you're shaking and baking and rolling, and you're talking to people, and, you know, you're being witty. You want to make sure that you have your elevator speech like on the mark. You know, if you see someone, a potential client, how do you interact with them? And so it's different now. You know, we're in this virtual environment, and I'm talking, and, you know, you're on the other end listening, and it's hard because sometimes, you know, that nonverbal communication, right? The being able to express yourself. I use my hands a lot, by the way, but those are one of the pieces that we have to learn and navigate through. And another thing I wanted to mention in regards to networking, having the ability to articulate your thoughts and being able to articulate your opinions is worth gold or even platinum or whatever you want to call it, right? Nowadays, and I can attest to even some of the generations that have graduated recently, one of the pieces that I do see when I'm actually interviewing is being able to have a conversation, being able to complete a sentence, being able to articulate your ideas and your answers, within, an interview process. So I think also from a social networking perspective, career networking perspective, it is imperative that you are prepared, that you're able to articulate your ideas and being able to have that common speech, that knowledge of being able to communicate.
So you did mention the COVID and how it has changed the kind of the structure of not just what, your job, but also the networking. And so even before COVID and when you were doing things in person, you don't go on Zoom or you don't go to someone that you want to get information from without doing some research first, right? So when you say being prepared, if you're wanting to find a mentor or join one of those associations, just give a couple of helpful hints on how to prepare so that you're not asking them all the questions, but you have some knowledge and are asking for more in-depth knowledge or something that you've used.
Great. Right. You know what, you hit it right on the head, because I say be prepared, but if I'm interviewing you, you better know what my company is about, right? It's very, very important that you do your homework. If you go to a networking event, you want to know who those sponsors are. And want to know what their market impact, like what is their niche? Like we have multiple clients that do only, high level volumes of, loans that are for only VA, right? So that's for veterans, right? And so you need to know who you're going to be playing ball with, I guess you can say, being able to research. One of the things that I'll give to these students is if you are going into the business technology field or even into pharmaceuticals or biotech field, you have to read. You have to read. It's so important. I can't stress it enough. Read the articles. Go into LinkedIn if you have no other way of, searching up. The easiest form is going to LinkedIn, reading those articles, being prepared. Asking questions. Think of a question that you would want to ask to actually break the ice. When you ask a question to someone that's an owner or someone up in that actual organization, in that company, that means that you're showing that you're interested, right? What does that do? That opens the door to more communication, and ultimately maybe it'll be a door to an invitation for a job interview or an invitation for an internship or whatever the case may be. So those are kind of a couple of the items on what you can do to be prepared. Is make sure that you read articles that are relevant to the field that you want to get into or you want to progress into in your career.
You got to find some way to stand out from the other applicants, right?
That's correct. And it doesn't mean you dress a funny way or an interesting or different way. It's actually, to be honest with you, asking a question, a really thought out question will be the ticket to opening those doors.
So Patricia, how do you continue learning and staying abreast in technology and finance?
I do a lot of these courses, refresher courses. For example, I started, once I started kind of going into the technology realm with business intelligence, BI and reporting and all that, jazz, it was SQL, right? You needed that under your tool belt. You had to be able to write, SQL queries and be able to execute, insert, and correlate database tables together to come out with an output, basically. With that said, it's just we have to go down that path of being able to look at what is the relevancy of your marketability, right? And taking on those courses, right? So I would say customer service, You know, here's a prime example, customer service. It was hot back in the 90s. Now I'm dating myself. Like, you know, you got a customer service job, good paying job, you know, you're on the phone, you're helping customers. That was outsourced, right? That left at that point in time when I was doing that customer service job. I didn't have any more relevancy, right? It was one of those, you know, college jobs that I was doing at the time. It wasn't relevant anymore. So what do? You open up a path to educate yourself and figure out, how do I move out of here, in the sense when you're saying move out of here, out of this job situation, right? How do you broaden your horizons and being able to add additional opportunities? And that's basically through, you know, continuing education, right? And then being able to, some of the continuing education, I'm not going to lie to you, it is expensive and it is an investment. So put in the time and the effort, because you are going to be paying for these as well, right? So those are one of the items I would say, continuing education, as well as there are free courses online. Udemy, I think, is one of them that it's, you know, $19, $5. Sometimes they have these free subscriptions. Well, they'll start teaching you things of that you're, you know, wanting to progress with, right? SQL, they have it. So if I was still in that role, I would take more SQL classes. I would understand what kind of software we have. For example, if you are going in and you want to try reporting for the first time, there's Power BI, there's all these other kinds of software that help you analyze and create reports and develop. So it's always making sure that you do your research, you know what software is available. You take a look and say, what are employers using, right? And the best way to find out is by looking at the job description, because they're going to say, do you know how to XYZ? And so I think that's the best way to understand how to become relevant and how to become more marketable at that point in time.
So what recommendation would you have for students who want to gain hands-on experience in the field? So we're talking students still in school. Are there internships? And is it feasible for you to get into your dream job, or do you have to look at where to start to move up from?
How can I don't want to burst anyone's bubble on the dream job perspective. I would have to say, at the moment in time, on your emotional and educational intelligence at that time, and you're going into a job, sometimes it is your dream job. But what do? We grow and we progress, right? And so the next step would be your next dream job, right? And so I came in from, you know, the ops world to the BA world to the project management world to the product, you know, management world, and now to basically the integration and operations, and overseeing that for a company. So I would honestly say dream jobs come and go. I think is looking at it from internal standpoint and being happy with yourself and making sure that this is what you want to do. We see a lot of people. I mean, I know my folks, my parents, they were happy, they were unhappy with their jobs, and we don't want to be in that situation. We want to be able to make a difference, right? And part of that would be actually internalizing and having a conversation with yourself and saying, what makes me happy? And does it make you happy doing what you're going to be doing, right? If you see every job is difficult, you're always going to have frustrations, you're always going to have challenges along the way, but you can't give up, because if it is, ultimately, it is what makes you happy and it's like your dream job, then, you know, you have to just, you know, nothing's easy. Nothing easy is in life. You always have to put in hard work and that dedication, right? And so to land that dream job, I would say perseverance, persistence. If money's tight, don't worry. Try to educate yourself with articles and being able to have that networking approach is really priceless at this point in time, because most people and most employers that do hire is because it's a word of mouth and it's a referral. So it's very important that you make friends And if you don't know how to make friends, I can help you make friends by networking, and you can hit me up on LinkedIn, and we can basically follow each other, and that's how we can get started. Because honestly, it is basically in any career and job, it is a likability factor. Whether you like it or not, there are people that will like you and people that won't like you. And at the end of the day, you have to be focused and persevere through the trials and tribulations that you may have, and then look at the end result. You are doing what you love. And literally, I don't see this as a career or a job. Here at FundingShield, where I'm at today, it's a way of life. Like literally, like it is a way of life, because I enjoy so much what I do in building products and innovations with my team, and being able to incorporate something that is of use and of value to our clients.
So Patricia, it's a good segue into how do you balance family life with professional life? And part I wanted to add to that, what you just said in terms of dream jobs. Sometimes you're looking at money, and other times you're looking at, am I fulfilling myself? Am I happy? Because sometimes it's not about the money. It's about, I'm balanced and I'm happy and I'm doing what I want to do. So how do you work that out?
All right. So I can give you the rose-colored petal view of it, or I can actually tell you the way it is. Balancing your life is the hardest job I have had. I think going to work is actually easier than balancing my life in regards to work and family, right? Work demands are great and you do them, but at this point in time, I see myself, work is part of my life, right? But I'm a single mother of 2 children, right? So I have to balance those pieces in a way where, obviously, I love my employer currently today. Family is first, right? When your boss says family is first, it's like, wow, he gets it. We're trying to create that balance of, we are going to be stellar and we're going to give 150% to the organization, because I belong to this organization. You know, I'm a proud person to be there. At the same time, they understand that we have our family values and they respect that and they honor that. And that's really, in a sense, not many employers see that. Here at FundingShield, they honestly do that. And all other employers as well that I've had experience with, they have that. They want people to strive for that, right? But ultimately, the onus is on you, on how you want to balance that. And you look at your priorities, right? Is it to progress career-wise? And will that take a toll on your family? In my situation, I can honestly say I was in that situation, and it did. I'm being completely honest with you guys. It's a matter of being cognizant and understanding what you're doing and the repercussions of taking those risks and what it involves. Currently today, I mean, I have a great work-life balance. And especially now, it's so funny that you say that, because with COVID, it's like, you know, we're working remotely. We're taking all precautions necessary to keep all our team members safe during this time. And I love the work balance, because, you know, after work, it's like you get up, you go to the kitchen, you make your dinner, you hang out with your kids, you say, hey, how was your philosophy class? My son's in college right now. So, and he's doing it online. So being able to make sure that you put down the phone, very important, because my phone is like literally always with me at all times, putting down the phone and spending that specific time. And honestly, it takes hard work and it takes time to get to that rhythm and that point of, you know, putting time with your family and having those, you know, those memories happen, right? And at the same time, understanding when to stop and work, you know, is done for today, and then focusing on family. It's a hard task. I won't lie, it's a hard task, but, you know, as long as you understand and you're cognizant, it'll become easier and it'll be fine. I mean, you know, it'll succeed. You will succeed in it.
Don't beat yourself up, right?
Hey, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, even like in code development, you know, I have releases and it's a concept of continuous deployment. And sometimes it goes great and sometimes it doesn't. But guess what? That's where you step in and you manage it and you move forward. So nothing's perfect. You know, even technology is not perfect. We all know that. So it's just a matter of learning what has come across your way and use it as a learning experience, more or less, than anything else, and try not to make, you know, those mistakes again. So
Patricia, what qualities do you look for when either hiring or promoting folks onto your team?
I would have to say I like to empower a lot of the people that are currently working for us today, and mentoring them. We are an organization that opens up the doors to college graduates, and they can apply. And what I see is that they need someone that will help them succeed and build their confidence, right? So when you have a boss that is maybe there's challenging, you know, conflicting personalities or communication styles, you know, your confidence level will go down, right? And it happens for any kind of situation in life, right? So we like to build confidence. We like to build knowledge, not being afraid to state your opinion, and also being able to follow the professional protocols. I've actually stepped into a couple of situations where professionalism isn't great, but instead of going down that route, what we do is we rise above and show by example, right? And that's the key, is being able to express yourself and present yourself in an exemplary way. And that's what we see in these people that want to, you know, come into an organization like our organization. And also being able to articulate, like I said before, it's so important to have a conversation and to be able to communicate and have that connection, right? Even though you're not there with me, but I can feel like we can connect, right? And that's very important.
So Patricia, what is the best advice you have received that has really helped you, you know, take that jump per se in your career?
Playing nice.
That's a good one.
Playing nice. It's so simple. I would have to say I worked for a company called Carrington Mortgage Services. I became such great friends with the developers and the UI UX designers as I was pushing forward a project and the design elements. And it was more or less, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but help me come up with a solution that I'm presenting in front of you. And how can we make this a reality, right? And then from there, we go into our technical, you know, talk and being able to whiteboard and design and being able to slot these iterations. Iterations are basically kind of just a way of speaking of the projects and how we're going to execute them in phases, basically. So needless to say, I would say being nice is the key. Like seriously, you know, they teach this to you when you're in kindergarten, right? Play nice with others, you know, and it makes a difference. It makes your career much more meaningful. You feel empowered, you feel the positivity. And I know this is like kind of like the self-guru help kind of thing, like be positive. But honestly, I think if you're not positive, then you go down the path of a negative approach, and then that will be short-lived. And eventually you're going to have to figure out that, you know, maybe you don't like your job anymore, but maybe it was because of the negative approach. So I honestly, the best advice would be positive, play nice. You're always going to have challenging people, but you know, that's what they say, killing them with kindness. You know, that's a great thing. And then one thing from a technical standpoint, from when you're speaking and you have to deliver a product or whatever it is on your end, and you have to work with other people. and this is nothing to do but with politics or anything like that, but one thing that stuck in my head was trust but verify. And I think Ronald Reagan said that. It has nothing to do with politics, but he had a point. You can trust people, but you also have to verify their work, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're responsible for it, you need to make sure that you're putting your name in front of it as well. So you would want to go ahead and make sure and double check work and also ask questions back if you have like a group of people working with you or a team working with you, as well as if you're delivering something to your boss or your team, you want to have them have that feedback. So please check my work and tell me if you have any feedback, right? Those are very important tools.
So we're at the 4-minute mark. Probably have time for one question and then you're kind of final, but what does a workday look like for you? Like you mentioned working with developers offshore, what does that look like as well?
It basically is a really fun experience, I would have to say. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or put on a happy face. I like hopping on these Zoom calls, and sometimes I'll start playing music before people start trickling in through the Zoom, and I make it an experience. I'm pretty social, so I like to have that connection. And being able to connect with the group is very important. It kind of sets the tone. So when you're going into, any kind of meeting, I like to, be happy, be cheerful. And if I'm the bearer of bad news, gosh, that's kind of how my day starts. Like, what went wrong? Like, okay, let's have, post-mortem. Let's take a look at everything that kind of came in and it's business. We're coming here. We can have fun, but at the end of the day, I need to see results. And so my day is literally results driven. Have a notebook with my to-do items, because if it's not written, it won't be done. So I literally make sure that I plan my day ahead of time, and I plan my week ahead of time, whether it's I'm talking to clients, I'm jumping on 6 in the morning, I jump in on a Zoom call with my offshore team to see the progress of development phases for products and services that we have are building. After that, we have our operations onshore people, and we have our ops team as well. And then we have client interactions. I have client interactions throughout the day. And then I also have checkpoints and meetings with the executive team. Those are very important because that's kind of where we set our roadmap. So whenever you go into an organization, you will see something like that, and they'll start talking about strategic initiatives and roadmap items. That's basically, you're now making those decisions to make the business what it is going to be in the future, right? And they have those visions of how we're going to progress as a company. So kind of like day in the life, that's kind of how it progresses. I also do, I have to review requirements documents. I actually jump in and do sanity testing for quality assurance within our projects. So going in there, making sure things are working the way that they are. I also do troubleshooting, whether it's API integrations or error messages that we're getting. I'm jumping in there, helping my team members out, as well as even in the reporting. So I love it. And I think that's what keeps it fresh and new every day, is being able to help the organization and help your peers and your team members to be able to do the job that they need to get done. So,
Patricia, we got 1 minute before there's a few questions we didn't ask. And I know that we'll show them how to get in touch with you as well as you can. But give us some parting words.
Those are so hard.
Okay, let me see.
First and foremost, we need to respect each other as professionals going forward, and maintain that etiquette, number one. And number two, always be prepared.
Okay.
And those are my parting words. And I wish everyone the best. And if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything that you want to bounce off of me, I'll be more than happy to schedule some time and discuss, next steps or any kind of mentoring or any kind of career opportunities. I'm in the forefront with other organizations that, we're always looking for good people. So definitely reach out to me. I'm here to empower everyone. I'm here to find your best self throughout, your career path. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm here to listen.
I got permission to ask one more question.
Okay.
So it's, where do you see yourself in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
5, 10, 15 years. Wow. I really see myself, growing with the organization I'm at right now. It is at the forefront of what I was telling you about earlier, off the record, and artificial intelligence and being able to integrate data specific and relevancy of data is the key to our future, right? And so I do see myself progressing and growing within the organization to create more innovative products to be able to serve a bigger mass, not just the target market that we have today, but in general be, something along the lines of, out of, the United States, 1 in 3 people use our product, right? Those are kind of like my goals and my ambitions that I see. As well as I always want to continue my education. I also see myself, hopefully getting my PhD and then being able to, be a lecturer, be a professor, and be able to help that way as well.
Well, Patricia, we've gone over time, but we really enjoyed this. And I'm going to turn it back over to Noemi. And it was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Lucia, for a great conversation. And we do encourage everyone to follow you on LinkedIn, right? Under your name. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And if you submitted any questions and we didn't get to them, we will follow up with an email and connect you with Patricia. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Actually, Patricia and Luis